My sister arrived at my boyfriend's flat in a snug dress and outright told him, "If you ever grow bored with my sister, you know I'd treat you better." When I confronted her, she just smirked and replied, "You're overreacting." I was merely testing him. I remained silent. That was 9 months ago. This morning, she was standing outside my apartment in streams of tears. Have you ever had someone so close to you, someone who's supposed to be family, try to destroy your entire life? I'm talking about a betrayal so deep, so calculated, it makes you question everything you thought you knew about love, loyalty, and even your own sanity. Because that's exactly what my sister did to me. For almost 3 years, I've been dating Adam. He's truly wonderful, kind, hardworking, and yeah, incredibly successful. He earns well, but he's so humble about it, which is one of the many things I adore. But my sister, Mia, she's always had this insatiable need to win, especially if it meant taking something from me. When we were kids, if I got a new toy, she'd pout until she got to try it, and somehow it'd just become hers. If I had friends over, she'd barge in, making me look silly to outshine me. I still remember when I was 14 and had my first crush. I told her in confidence, just between us. The very next day, she showed up to school in her nicest outfit, sat right next to him at lunch, and giggled at his every word. Later, she gloated, "He talked to me more than you. Guess he likes me better." I thought she'd grow out of it. She never did. The moment I introduced Adam to my family, Mia's eyes just lit up when she saw his car. She wouldn't stop asking him about his job, his salary, his apartment. I laughed it off, but deep down, a knot of unease started to form. Over the next few months, whenever Adam came over, Mia would just hover. She'd wear low-cut tops, flip her hair, and say things like, "Wow, I wish I could find someone like you." Sometimes, she'd even jokingly ask, "If you and my sister ever break up, you'll call me, right?" Adam would just laugh awkwardly and change the subject, but it made me so incredibly uncomfortable. When I finally pulled Mia aside and told her to tone it down, she just rolled her eyes at me. "Oh my God, you're so insecure." "I'm just being friendly. Not my fault if your boyfriend likes talking to me." Then 2 months ago, everything just exploded. Adam and I were hosting a small dinner party at his apartment. Mia showed up dressed like she was going clubbing. Skin-tight dress, high heels, perfume so strong you could smell it from across the room. The whole night, she was glued to Adam. She'd touch his arm when she talked, lean in close when he spoke, and at one point, she whispered something in his ear that made him visibly uncomfortable. I pulled her aside, my blood starting to boil. "What are you doing?" She just laughed. "Relax, I'm just making conversation. You should be thanking me for keeping your man entertained." I wanted to kick her out right then and there, but Adam, bless his heart, asked me to let it go, to not ruin the night. A week later, Adam told me something that made my stomach drop into my shoes. Mia had shown up at his apartment unannounced while I was at work. She brought a bottle of wine, claiming she needed someone to talk to. Adam said she sat next to him on the couch, crossed her legs, and started talking about how lonely she was. Then she put her hand on his knee and said, "If you ever get bored with my sister, you know I treat you better." Adam, without missing a beat, told her to leave immediately and made it crystal clear he was not interested. And the amazing thing? He told me right away. I called Mia that night completely furious. "Have you lost your mind?" She didn't even deny it. She just smirked and said, "You're overreacting." I was just joking. If he didn't want me there, he could have kicked me out. When I told her that Adam did kick her out, she scoffed. Whatever. Maybe I was just testing him. You should be glad he passed. Testing him? That was her excuse? I told her she was pathetic, selfish, and disgusting for trying to sabotage my relationship. She shot back. "You're just mad because you know I could take him if I wanted to. You've always been jealous of me." That was it for me. Done. I told her we were done as sisters. No more calls, no more visits, no more pretending we're family. She laughed like it didn't matter, but I could tell my words hit her. When my parents found out, they begged me to forgive her. My mom said, "She's your sister. You can't just throw her away over a man." I looked her dead in the eye and said, "This isn't about a man. It's about respect. And she's never respected me." Of course, Mia immediately told the whole family that I was overly dramatic and trying to ruin her life over nothing. She started posting vague quotes on Facebook about fake people and how jealousy destroys relationships. But here's where it gets good. One of Mia's friends, someone I barely knew, sent me screenshots. It was a group chat where Mia was literally bragging about what she did. She'd written, "I could have had him if I wanted. She should thank me for not stealing him." That same friend then sent those screenshots directly to my mom and dad. My mom called me crying, saying she couldn't believe Mia would actually admit that. My dad hasn't spoken to Mia in weeks, and Adam? He just told me this whole thing proved how lucky he is to be with someone who doesn't play games. We're stronger than ever. Mia is blocked on everything. She's been trying to call from unknown numbers, but I'm not picking up. My parents have finally stopped pushing me to make up because now they know the truth. She thought she could play her usual manipulative game and win, but this time she lost and everyone saw it happen. 2 weeks passed without any contact from Mia, and I actually started to think maybe, just maybe, she'd finally gotten the message. I was sitting at my desk, reviewing quarterly reports, when my phone buzzed with a call from building security. The guard's voice was tense. He explained that someone claiming to be my sister was in the lobby demanding to see me. My stomach twisted into knots. She had found my workplace. She was here. I told security not to let her up under any circumstances. Then I remembered our building had a security app that let employees view the lobby cameras. I opened it on my phone, and there she was, standing at the security desk in a bright red dress, holding what looked like a gift bag with tissue paper sticking out the top. She was gesturing wildly at the two guards, her face getting redder by the second as they kept shaking their heads. The camera didn't have audio, but I could see her mouth moving rapidly, probably spinning some sob story about needing to apologize to her sister. Then I watched her pull out her phone and start recording the guards, turning the camera between them and herself while her mouth just kept moving. Other employees coming in for lunch were stopping to watch the scene, some even pulling out their own phones to record whatever drama was unfolding in the lobby. The guards looked uncomfortable but stayed professional, one of them pointing toward the exit while the other stayed behind the desk on the phone, probably calling for backup. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely type as I texted Adam about what was happening. He replied immediately, asking if I wanted him to leave his office and come get me. But I told him I needed to handle this myself, even though my whole body was trembling. Just then, my manager walked over, having gotten a call from security about the situation downstairs. She asked if I needed to leave early or if we should call the police, her face full of concern as she noticed how pale I must have looked. I asked her to please have security document everything that was happening for my records, and she nodded, picking up her desk phone to make the call. 20 minutes later, after Mia had finally been escorted out, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was a photo of Mia sitting in her car with mascara running down her face and a message saying she just wanted to give me Mom's birthday present and calling me cruel for humiliating her. Mom's birthday wasn't for another 4 months, which made the whole excuse even more ridiculous. That's such a weak excuse. What was she really planning with that whole scene? That evening, Adam came over, and we sat on his couch discussing whether we should get security cameras for his apartment. We both knew this wouldn't be Mia's last attempt. She was testing boundaries to see what she could get away with, what would work to get a reaction from me. Around 9 that night, Mom called, upset because Mia had come home hysterical about being humiliated at my workplace. When I explained that Mia had shown up uninvited and caused a scene, Mom went quiet for a moment, then sighed and admitted Mia had been acting unhinged lately, using that exact word. I lay in bed that night staring at the ceiling, remembering all the times throughout our childhood when Mia had pulled stunts, then twisted the story to make herself the victim. The pattern was so familiar it made my chest tight. But this time felt different, more desperate, like she was spiraling without her usual control. 3 days later, I got to work and found a bouquet of roses on my desk with no card attached. My coworker Rachel mentioned a delivery woman had dropped them off about an hour before I arrived. But when she described the woman, it didn't match anyone from the local florists we usually used for office deliveries. Something about those roses felt wrong, so I asked building security if I could check the lobby cameras from this morning. The security guard pulled up the footage, and there she was, a woman I'd never seen before, carrying the exact bouquet. But when we rewound further, we saw her talking to someone in the parking garage first. The guard zoomed in, and my stomach dropped, because it was clearly Mia handing the woman cash, looked like a $20 bill, and pointing toward the building entrance. The woman took the money, grabbed the flowers from Mia's car, and headed inside while Mia drove off quickly. I asked the guard to save that footage and email it to me immediately. Back at my desk, I noticed the roses were the expensive kind. Deep red with perfect petals, and Rachel mentioned they looked like the type Adam's mom loved, which made my skin crawl because Adam had mentioned that exact detail to Mia at a family dinner months ago. Rachel suggested I check if Mia was posting anything online, so I logged into her old account and looked at Mia's Instagram profile. She'd been posting like crazy the past few days. Photos of herself with similar roses, fancy restaurant meals, and captions like, "Finally knowing my worth," "When the right one sees what he's missing," and "Patience pays off for those who wait." The timestamp showed she'd posted the rose photo just an hour after the delivery woman left my building. That afternoon, Adam texted me that his coworker Brad had just messaged him something weird. Brad said a woman who looked exactly like the sister Adam had described was at their building's coffee shop that morning, asking the barista about Adam's usual order. She'd told the barista she was picking up coffee for her sister's boyfriend as a surprise and needed to know his exact preferences. The barista hadn't given her any information, but Brad recognized her from the company holiday party last year and thought Adam should know. My hands were shaking as I read the message, because Adam's office was 20 miles from mine, and she'd been at both buildings in the same morning. That evening, Dad called while Mom was at her book club and his voice sounded tired. He told me Mia had been asking them for money lately. $500 here, $300 there, claiming she needed it for therapy sessions to work through her issues. When he asked for receipts or the therapist's name, she got defensive and said they should trust her to handle her own mental health. He'd given her almost $2,000 over the past month, but something felt off because she never seemed to actually go anywhere on the days she claimed to have appointments. A week later, I decided I needed to start documenting everything properly. I created a folder on my laptop with screenshots of every Instagram post, the security footage, text messages from Adam about the coffee shop incident, and Dad's list of money transfers to Mia. Rachel, who works in HR at a tech company, and when I showed her everything, she got serious fast. She said this was textbook stalking behavior, and I should consider filing for a restraining order before things escalated further. I downloaded forms from the courthouse website and started filling them out that night. 3 days after that, Adam forwarded me a LinkedIn message from someone claiming to be a recruiter at Tech Forward Solutions. The profile looked professional at first glance with a stock photo of a woman in business attire. But the message was weird, talking about an amazing opportunity that required an immediate in-person meeting at a coffee shop downtown. Adam said the writing style seemed familiar, and when I read it, my blood went cold because it was exactly how Mia wrote. Same punctuation habits, same way of emphasizing certain words. He'd already replied professionally, saying he wasn't interested in new opportunities, thanking them for reaching out. Within 2 hours, the fake profile sent another message, this time completely unhinged, saying he was making the biggest mistake of his career and would regret this decision forever, and that some opportunities only come once. Adam blocked the profile and reported it to LinkedIn, but we both knew it was her. Her fake recruiter act reads like someone tried to copy LinkedIn's style guide while having a fever dream about corporate speak. Around the same time, I started getting texts from mutual acquaintances asking if everything was okay between Adam and me. Turns out Mia had been showing people screenshots of text conversations with Adam, claiming they'd been talking regularly. When I asked to see these screenshots, I realized she'd taken old messages from before the incident, carefully cropped out the dates, and was presenting them as recent. One friend sent me photos Mia had shown her, and I could see they were from Adam's birthday dinner 2 years ago. But Mia had edited them to remove the date stamps. 2 days later, I was at the grocery store picking up ingredients for dinner when I spotted her car in the parking lot. That distinctive red Honda with a dent in the rear bumper. My whole body went cold, and I abandoned my half-full cart right there in the cereal aisle. I walked quickly to my car, keeping my head down, heart pounding as I wondered if she was actually following me or if this was just coincidence. I drove home taking a different route than usual, checking my mirrors constantly, and didn't stop shaking until I was inside with the door locked. 2 weeks after that, Mom called and finally admitted what had been going on at their house. Mia had moved back into her childhood bedroom, refusing to look for work, and spent most of her time on her phone or laptop. Mom had noticed Mia obsessively checking Adam's company website multiple times a day, refreshing his bio page and staring at his professional headshot. She'd also been researching apartments in his neighborhood and had printouts of listings within a 3-block radius of his building. 2 days after Mom told me about the apartment printouts, I got a Facebook message from a name I didn't recognize at first. Derek Matthews had dated Mia back in college for about 8 months before they had what she called a messy breakup that she never wanted to talk about. His message was short, but it made my stomach drop. He'd seen some posts from mutual friends about what was happening with Mia and me, and wanted to warn me that she'd done something similar when they broke up. After he dumped her for cheating, she started showing up at his new girlfriend's workplace, calling his boss with fake complaints about him, and even made a fake dating profile using his photos to message random women horrible things. I called him right away, and what he told me next made everything so much worse. He opened his email while we were on the phone and sent me scanned copies of police reports from 2019 that I couldn't believe were real. The first report showed that Mia had keyed liar into the side of his car after he started dating someone new. The second one detailed how she left dead roses on his doorstep every morning for 2 weeks straight. The third one, the worst one, described how she broke into his apartment while he was at work and cut up all his girlfriend's clothes that she'd left there. The charges got dropped because Mia agreed to get counseling and Derek just wanted it over with. But she never actually went to any therapy sessions. She just told everyone she did and moved back home, claiming Derek was abusive and she needed to heal. I forwarded everything to my parents within minutes of getting off the phone with Derek. Dad called me back so fast I barely had time to process what I just learned. His voice was shaking as he told me he was driving straight to the bank to freeze the emergency credit card they'd given Mia. Then he was going to demand receipts for all the therapy sessions she claimed she needed money for last month. Mom texted me asking if I could meet her for coffee the next morning while Mia would be at what she claimed was a job interview. I met Mom at the coffee shop near their house, and she looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her hands were shaking as she held her cup, and she started crying before I even sat down. She told me she'd always known Mia was jealous of me, even when we were little kids, but she kept hoping Mia would grow out of it. She admitted she'd seen the signs, the way Mia would copy everything I did but try to do it better. The way she'd get angry whenever I succeeded at something. The way she'd always try to take my friends or my things. Mom said she and Dad had tried to get Mia into therapy when she was 16 after she destroyed my prom dress the night before the dance, but Mia had screamed and threatened to hurt herself if they made her go. They gave up because they were scared, and Mom said that was the biggest mistake they ever made. That night, Adam called me while I was making dinner, and his voice sounded weird. Building security had just contacted him about an incident in the parking garage. Someone had tried to use an old key fob that was reported lost 6 months ago to access the resident area. When security confronted the person, they ran to their car and sped off, but the cameras got everything. The license plate matched Mia's car perfectly. Security pulled the footage and showed a woman in a baseball cap and sunglasses. But the way she walked, the way she held her shoulders, it was definitely her. 3 days later, Adam and I went to the police station to file a report about the parking garage incident. The officer at the desk seemed bored at first, like this was just another domestic dispute he didn't want to deal with. But then I pulled out the folder I'd been keeping with everything documented. Derek's old police reports, the screenshots from Sophia, the security footage from Adam's building, printed copies of all the threatening texts from unknown numbers, everything in chronological order with dates and times highlighted. The officer's expression changed completely as he flipped through the pages. He called over his supervisor, who looked through everything again and asked us to wait while they made copies. They gave us a case number and said a detective would be in touch within the week. I decided I needed professional help to deal with all the stress. So I made an appointment with a therapist my doctor recommended. During that first session, I laid out everything that had happened, and the therapist's eyes got wider and wider. She told me Mia's behavior was escalating in a dangerous pattern, and we needed to create safety plans for different scenarios. We spent the rest of the hour going through what to do if Mia showed up at my work, at Adam's apartment, at my apartment, or tried to approach me in public. She gave me a list of security measures to implement immediately and told me to document absolutely everything, even things that seemed minor. While I was in therapy, my phone buzzed with texts from Sophia. She sent me screenshots of messages Mia had been sending to their entire friend group, claiming I was having a mental breakdown and that Adam was worried about my stability. Mia told them I was paranoid, making up stories about her, and that she was concerned I might hurt myself or someone else. Some of the friends were actually buying it and asking Sophia if they should reach out to me or call someone to check on me. Sophia told them all it was lies, but Mia kept pushing her narrative, even creating a group chat called Supporting Emma Through Her Crisis, where she played the concerned sister. I started changing my routine immediately after reading those messages. Different routes to work every day, going to the gym at random times instead of my usual 6 a.m. slot, eating lunch at different places or at different times, never posting on social media about where I was or where I was going. The constant vigilance was exhausting. Checking my mirrors while driving, scanning every room I entered, jumping whenever someone walked too close behind me. I felt like I was living in a spy movie, except the villain was my own sister. About a week later, Adam was getting home from work when he noticed something shiny on the hallway floor outside his apartment door. He picked up a single silver earring with a small pearl, something neither of us recognized. He took it down to security to see if anyone had reported losing it. And that's when things got weird again. The security guard pulled up the footage from earlier that day, and there was someone matching Mia's description talking to one of the maintenance workers by the service elevator. She was wearing the same baseball cap from before, but this time with a medical mask, like she had allergies or something. The maintenance guy looked confused as she talked to him, kept shaking his head. Then she handed him something and walked away quickly. Security called the maintenance worker down, and he said a woman had approached him claiming she was Adam's sister who'd locked herself out while visiting. She wanted him to let her into Adam's apartment to wait for him, but he told her that was against policy, and she'd need to wait in the lobby. She got upset, shoved a $20 bill at him, and stormed off. He threw the money away because the whole interaction made him uncomfortable. The building manager pulled up the maintenance logs on his computer and started scrolling through the entries from that week. His finger stopped at an entry from Tuesday showing someone had called in a work order for Adam's unit claiming a water leak. The order got canceled 20 minutes later with a note saying the tenant called back to say it was a false alarm. The manager checked the phone records, and the number that called didn't match any tenant in the building. He printed out the logs and handed them to us, saying this was definitely suspicious activity that needed to be reported. A week later, I woke up at 3 in the morning to my phone buzzing nonstop with Instagram notifications. Mia had unblocked herself somehow and was posting old family photos from when we were kids. Each photo had captions like, "Missing better times," and "Before everything changed," and "Family is forever." I took screenshots of everything before blocking her new account, but my hands were shaking. Rachel called me the next morning after seeing the posts and offered to let me stay at her place a couple nights a week. She said if Mia was watching my patterns, it would be good to switch things up and be unpredictable. I packed a bag and started staying at Rachel's on Tuesdays and Thursdays while she worked her night shifts. Dad called me 3 days later, sounding confused because he'd been checking their Amazon account for a return. He found orders for books Mia had bought using their saved credit card without asking. The titles made his stomach drop, including Winning Back Trust After Betrayal and Manipulation Tactics in Relationships. And weirdly, Corporate Espionage for Beginners. He canceled the orders and removed her access to the account, but the damage was done. Mia buying Corporate Espionage for Beginners on her parents' Amazon account. That's oddly specific for someone supposedly having a breakdown. Makes me wonder if she's following some kind of playbook here rather than just acting out randomly. 2 weeks passed before Adam's company had their big public demo day where they showed off their new software to potential investors. I was sitting in the audience watching Adam present when I saw a familiar figure in a business suit walk in late. Mia had somehow found out about the event and was pretending to be an investor, asking technical questions during the Q&A. During the break, she cornered Adam near the coffee station and started talking fast about how sorry she was. Adam's CEO noticed him looking uncomfortable and walked over, asking if everything was okay. Adam introduced Mia as someone who needs to leave, and security escorted her out while she kept insisting she was a legitimate attendee. The next morning, we went to the police station with all our documentation, including the maintenance logs and screenshots. The detective assigned to our case looked through everything and said we had enough evidence of escalation to pursue a no-contact order. He explained the process would take a few weeks, but with what we had, it should be approved. Mom texted me that night saying Mia had thrown her laptop against the wall when she found out about the police involvement. The screen was completely shattered, and now Mia was demanding they buy her a new one for her job search. Mom said Dad refused and told Mia she needed to take responsibility for her own actions. 2 weeks later, I installed a doorbell camera at my apartment and gave the building management a photo of Mia. They added her to their Do Not Admit list and circulated her picture to all the security staff. Adam's company took things even more seriously after the demo day incident. They implemented a new security protocol where all visitors had to be pre-approved 24 hours in advance. Mia's photo was added to their security system, and all staff were briefed on the situation. I thought maybe things would finally calm down, but then Derek called me in a panic. Mia had found his fiancée on Instagram and sent her screenshots of old intimate messages from when they dated in college. She told his fiancé that Derek had been texting her recently and wanted to meet up, which was completely made up. Derek's fiancé was devastated, and it took him hours to convince her Mia was lying and show her he'd blocked Mia years ago. Derek's fiancé called me the next day and said she wanted to help us get a no-contact order. She came over with printed emails showing someone had been sending her anonymous messages at work, warning her about Derek cheating. The messages all came from different email addresses, but used the same weird phrases Mia always used. She handed me the stack of papers, and I could see her hands shaking a little. Derek's fiancé also brought screenshots from her work computer showing the times and dates. Adam looked through everything and started making a file while I sat there reading each message. That's when it hit me hard. Mia didn't just want what I had anymore. She wanted to destroy everything so nobody could have it. The thought made my skin crawl, and I had to stand up and walk around the apartment. 5 days later, Adam surprised me with a weekend trip to Portland. We only told Rachel where we were going and turned off our phones except for emergencies. For 2 whole days, we walked around the city and ate at food trucks and didn't talk about Mia once. It felt like being normal people again, without looking over our shoulders. We got back Sunday night and found scratches all around my apartment door lock. The metal was all scraped up like someone had been trying to pick it with the wrong tools. Nothing was missing inside, but my doorbell camera had somehow stopped working during that exact time. The building manager pulled up the external security footage and there was Mia clear as day. She was spraying black paint on my doorbell camera lens at 2 a.m. before spending 20 minutes trying to pick my lock. The video showed her getting frustrated and kicking the door before leaving. We took the video straight to the courthouse Monday morning. The judge watched the footage twice and granted us a temporary restraining order right there. She set a full hearing for 2 weeks later and had the paper served to Mia that afternoon. Dad called me crying that night because when the sheriff served Mia the papers, she told our parents I was the one stalking her. She claimed she had proof that I'd been following her and making fake social media accounts to harass her. Dad didn't know what to believe and kept asking me why this was happening. I drove to my parents' house with a box of old photos and my laptop. We sat at the kitchen table for 3 hours while I showed them date stamps on everything. I pulled up Mia's old posts where she bragged about trying to steal Adam, while my photos from those same dates showed me in completely different places. Dad finally saw it all clearly and put his head in his hands. A week later, some random person sent me a friend request on Facebook with a message. The profile was obviously fake, but the message said Mia just wanted to talk and was really suffering, and I should have a heart. I screenshot it immediately, and Adam called our lawyer because that was a clear violation of the restraining order. 3 days after that, I noticed a silver rental car parked across from my work building. It had been there every day when I arrived and was still there when I left. Security went to check it out and found rental papers with Mia's name right there on the dashboard, along with receipts from a coffee shop near my office. Our lawyer told us to photograph everything and keep documenting each violation, since it would help us get a permanent restraining order. I took pictures of the car, the rental papers, and the receipts, then emailed everything to our lawyer that same afternoon. The security guard at my building started keeping a log of when the car showed up and when it left. That night, Adam couldn't sleep and kept checking the locks on all the windows and doors. He finally admitted he'd been having nightmares about Mia breaking into our place while we slept. We decided to book a hotel room for the night before the court hearing just to feel safe. Rachel called me the next day and said she and a bunch of our friends wanted to come to the hearing as witnesses. They'd all seen Mia's crazy behavior at different times and wanted to support us. I started crying when she told me because I hadn't realized how many people had noticed what was happening. The hearing was set for 3 weeks later, and as the date got closer, my anxiety got worse. Mom called me the night before and said she was coming to support me, even though Mia had threatened to never speak to her again if she did. Dad couldn't bring himself to choose sides publicly, so he stayed home. The morning of the hearing, we got to the courthouse early, and our lawyer was already there with a thick folder of evidence. Mia showed up with her own lawyer, wearing a conservative dress I'd never seen before, trying to look innocent. When the hearing started, everything seemed to be going our way until Mia's lawyer pulled out printed text messages, supposedly from Adam, saying he was interested in her. My stomach dropped, but our lawyer immediately asked to examine them, and within minutes proved they were badly photoshopped. The metadata showed they were created just 2 days ago, and the font didn't even match real iPhone messages. Fake text messages with the wrong font? That's like showing up to court with evidence written in crayon. Even Judge Judy would have laughed at that amateur hour attempt. The judge looked angry and asked Mia's lawyer if he knew the messages were fake. He claimed he'd just received them from his client that morning and hadn't had time to verify them. The judge spent another hour reviewing all our evidence, including the rental car stalking, the social media posts, and the witness statements. He granted a 2-year restraining order that included no contact through any means, including digital or through third parties. Mia jumped up and screamed that we'd ruined her life before her lawyer grabbed her arm and pulled her out of the courtroom. After the hearing, Mom asked us to come to her house because she needed to talk to us about something important. When we got there, she looked exhausted and told us she and Dad had given Mia 30 days to find somewhere else to live. The family home wasn't safe for anyone anymore with all the drama, and Mom couldn't handle the stress. That night, back at Adam's apartment, he got quiet and then said this whole experience had shown him we could handle anything together. He asked if I wanted to officially move in with him. Not because we were scared, but because he wanted to wake up next to me every day. I said yes immediately, and we started looking for a new place the next week, somewhere in a different neighborhood where Mia wouldn't know to look for us. We spent hours on apartment websites, touring places on the other side of the city, trying to find somewhere that felt like a fresh start. Just when I thought things were calming down, Sophia sent me new screenshots from Mia's Instagram where she was telling people we were all in a polyamorous relationship, and I was the jealous one who couldn't handle sharing. My phone started blowing up with messages from people we both knew asking if the posts were true. I spent the next 3 hours typing out the same explanation over and over to confused friends and coworkers. Rachel called from work asking why Mia was posting about me being in some weird relationship setup. 2 of Adam's coworkers texted him screenshots asking if everything was okay at home. My old college roommate messaged me saying she always knew something was off about Mia, but this seemed extreme even for her. Each message made my hands shake harder as I had to relive the whole mess again and again. Adam finally took my phone away and told me to let him handle the responses while I tried to calm down. The next morning, our lawyer called to say she was sending Mia a formal cease and desist letter about the defamatory posts. She had 48 hours to remove everything or we would pursue additional legal action for harassment and defamation. The letter went out by certified mail that afternoon with copies to her last known address and her workplace. 3 days later, I was at the grocery store picking up milk when someone tapped my shoulder. It was Jessica, one of Mia's friends from high school, who I barely remembered. She looked uncomfortable, but said she needed to tell me something about Mia. We stood there by the dairy section while she explained how Mia had done the exact same thing to her college roommate years ago. The roommate had a boyfriend Mia wanted, and Mia spread rumors about them having threesomes until the guy broke up with the roommate out of embarrassment. Everyone dismissed it as sister drama or girl drama, but Jessica said she always wondered if there was more to it. She gave me her number in case I needed someone to back up that this was a pattern with Mia. 2 weeks passed with more apartment hunting and security planning before we finally found the right place. The building had everything we needed, including key fob entry at every door and security guards working 24/7. We signed the lease that afternoon and started packing immediately. Mom called the next day crying because she discovered something while helping Mia look for apartments online. Mia had been using Mom's maiden name on all her applications to hide the restraining order from potential landlords. The deception hurt Mom more than she expected, and she kept saying she didn't raise Mia to be dishonest like this. A week later, Adam got an email about an amazing job opportunity from a company called Tech Vision Solutions, offering him double his current salary. Something felt wrong about it, so he forwarded it to his IT friend, who traced the email headers. The IP address came from a coffee shop 2 blocks from where Mia's friend lived. We added it to our growing file of restraining order violations, and our lawyer said we now had enough evidence for criminal harassment charges if we wanted to pursue them. She recommended documenting everything, but waiting to see if the cease and desist letter would make Mia stop first. My therapy session that week turned into a breakthrough moment I didn't see coming. I was talking about missing the sister I used to play with as a kid when my therapist asked me to describe specific memories. I couldn't find any that weren't tainted by Mia trying to take my toys or friends or attention. That's when it hit me. I had been mourning a sister who never actually existed. The Mia I wished I had was just a fantasy I created to cope with the reality of who she really was. 3 weeks later, we finished loading the last box into the moving truck and drove to our new apartment across the city. The security guard checked our IDs and key fobs before letting us into the parking garage. We spent the day unpacking and setting up our new home with its reinforced door locks and security system. That night, I actually slept 8 hours straight without waking up in a panic for the first time in months. The next morning, Dad texted me that Mia had moved in with some guy she met online after knowing him for exactly 1 week. He was worried about her making such reckless decisions, but acknowledged he couldn't control what she did anymore. He said she seemed desperate to find someone to take care of her now that the family had stepped back. 3 days passed before Rachel called me at work with her voice shaking so bad I could barely understand her. Someone had called her company's HR department, claiming to be doing a background check on me for some government job. They asked all these weird questions about my mental health and if I had any history of making false accusations against family members. Rachel's boss pulled her into a meeting because the caller specifically asked about our friendship and whether Rachel had ever seen me act unstable or violent. The HR manager got suspicious when the caller couldn't provide any official documentation and started asking really personal stuff about my relationships. They traced the call to a prepaid phone bought with cash at a gas station 20 miles outside Seattle. The caller knew things like where I went to college and the name of my first job out of school. Rachel's HR department filed a report with the police since impersonating a government official is a federal crime. I drove straight to the police station and added this to our growing harassment file against Mia. The detective looked through everything and said with the restraining order violations, plus this new stuff, she could be looking at actual jail time. He helped us file formal criminal harassment charges that afternoon. That night, Mom called me sobbing because Mia had shown up at their house screaming about needing money for a lawyer. She kept saying we were trying to destroy her life with lies and that she never did anything wrong. Dad had to physically block the door while Mom called the police, but Mia left before they arrived. The prosecutor's office called me 3 weeks later with an update on the case. They were offering Mia a plea deal of 6 months probation with mandatory therapy if she admitted to the harassment. If she refused and went to trial, she could face up to 18 months in jail. I was at Pike Place Market the following Saturday when I saw a woman with Mia's exact haircut walking toward me. My whole body went cold, and I ducked behind a flower stand with my heart pounding. It turned out to be just some random woman buying vegetables, but I couldn't stop shaking for an hour. Adam found me sitting on a bench trying to calm down and held me, while I cried about being scared of my own shadow. The prosecutor called 2 days later to say Mia had rejected the plea deal and was demanding a trial. She kept insisting she was innocent and that we were all conspiring against her. The judge set a trial date for 3 months out and warned her that any contact with us would result in immediate arrest. Derek reached out through his lawyer saying he would testify about Mia's past behavior and harassment patterns. His fiancée also agreed to testify about the recent texts and calls Mia had been making to their house. They had documented everything, including voicemails where Mia threatened to ruin their wedding if Derek didn't help her. Adam and I started going to couples therapy together to deal with all the stress this was causing. The therapist helped us work through the constant anxiety and fear that Mia would show up somewhere. We did exercises to rebuild our sense of safety and learn techniques for managing the trauma responses. 2 weeks into therapy, Mom called to tell me Mia's new roommate had kicked her out. He caught her going through his desk, trying to get into his bank statements and credit card information. She was now sleeping on different people's couches and posting on social media about being a victim of circumstances. The next Monday, I went back to work full-time for the first time in weeks. The company had installed new key card readers on every floor and hired extra security guards who now check IDs at the main entrance. Rachel met me at my desk with coffee and showed me the panic button they'd installed under my workstation. It felt weird being back, but also good to have some normal routine again. 3 days later, Adam called me from his office sounding confused. Someone had left an envelope on his desk while he was in a meeting, and it had no return address. Inside was a typed letter warning him that I was just like my sister and he should run while he could. The letter said I'd eventually show my true colors and destroy his life, just like Mia destroyed everyone around her. Adam brought it straight to our lawyer, who sent it to the police for fingerprint analysis. Even though it was typed, the forensics team found partial prints on the paper that matched Mia's from her previous arrests. They also noticed the paper had a watermark from a specific brand sold at only 3 stores in Seattle. Security footage from one store showed Mia buying that exact paper 2 days before the letter appeared. Our lawyer added it to the growing pile of evidence for the harassment charges. When we met with him the following week, he told us Mia's public defender was pushing hard for a mental health evaluation, They were trying to argue she wasn't mentally competent to stand trial and needed treatment instead of jail time. The prosecutor warned us this was a common defense tactic that rarely worked, but could delay things by months. A month later, I found myself sitting at my kitchen table at 2 a.m., writing a letter I knew I'd never send. I wrote about the sister I thought I had growing up and how that person never really existed. I wrote about the birthday parties she ruined and the friends she stole and the trust she shattered over and over. I wrote about how I grieved for the relationship we could have had if she'd been capable of love instead of just taking. I wrote about the anger that burned in my chest every time I thought about what she'd put Adam and me through. I folded the letter and put it in a drawer, knowing I'd never mail it, but needing to get the words out anyway. 2 weeks after that, the court-ordered psychiatric evaluation results came in. The psychiatrist diagnosed Mia with narcissistic personality disorder with antisocial features. The report described how she showed no real empathy for others and viewed people as objects to manipulate for her own benefit. It explained how she'd likely been this way since childhood, but her parents' enabling had prevented her from facing consequences until now. The evaluation said she understood right from wrong, but simply didn't care about the harm she caused others. This meant she was mentally competent to stand trial, and the insanity defense wouldn't work. That psychiatric evaluation reads like a textbook case, too, hitting every single checkbox for the diagnosis. Mom called me crying after she read the report, saying she couldn't believe she'd missed all the signs for so many years. Dad was quieter, but I could hear the guilt in his voice when he said they should have gotten her help decades ago. They started going to therapy together the next week to work through their role in creating the monster Mia had become. The therapist helped them understand how their constant excuses and second chances had taught Mia she could do anything without facing real consequences. 3 months after the criminal charges were filed, we finally got our trial date. I threw up that morning from nerves, and Adam had to help me get dressed because my hands were shaking so bad. Walking into the courthouse felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's life on TV. Then I saw her for the first time since that day at the apartment. Mia sat at the defendant's table in a plain gray suit, looking smaller than I remembered. Her hair was pulled back and she'd lost weight, making her face look sharp and hollow. When our eyes met across the courtroom, I expected to feel scared, but instead I just felt empty. She looked like a stranger wearing my sister's face. The prosecutor called me to testify on the second day of the trial. I brought 3 binders full of printed screenshots and emails and text messages documenting years of harassment. I showed the jury the Facebook posts where she admitted to trying to steal Adam and the threatening messages she'd sent after we cut contact. I explained about the fake dating profiles and the calls to my work, and the letter she'd sent to Adam's office. The whole time I was talking, Mia stared at me with this cold fury in her eyes, like she wanted to reach across the room and strangle me. Her lawyer tried to make it seem like I was overreacting to normal sibling rivalry, but the evidence spoke for itself. When Adam took the stand the next day, he was calm and clear about everything that had happened. He testified about Mia showing up at his apartment uninvited and trying to seduce him. He described the attempted break-ins and the fake job offers someone had submitted in his name to companies across the country. He showed bank records proving someone had tried to open credit cards using his social security number right after Mia was released on bail. His testimony was devastating to her defense because he had documentation for everything and spoke without any emotion, just stating facts. Derek took the stand next, and the whole courtroom went quiet. He brought receipts from 5 years ago, showing Mia had done this exact same thing with his brother. She'd shown up at his brother's work, claiming she needed help with her car. Then she started sending him photos and messages saying she could treat him better than Derek ever could. Derek had text messages, emails, and even a recording where Mia admitted she liked taking things from other people. The prosecutor played the recording, and you could hear Mia laughing about how easy it was to mess with people's relationships. My lawyer showed more evidence of Mia creating fake social media accounts to message Adam's coworkers. She'd been telling them he was single and looking to date someone from work. 3 different women testified they'd received messages from accounts using Adam's photos, but with different names. The judge had to call for order twice when people in the gallery started whispering. Mia's lawyer tried to argue this was all circumstantial, but then the prosecutor dropped the biggest bomb. They had security footage from Adam's building showing Mia trying different keys in his door at 3 a.m. The timestamp was from 2 days after the restraining order was issued. I'm curious why Mia's lawyer didn't question that convenient security footage from 3 a.m. Seems like the building suddenly had perfect camera angles right when they needed them. Mia finally took the stand and tried to spin everything as a big misunderstanding. She claimed I'd always been jealous of her and was making everything up. But when the prosecutor showed her the screenshot she'd sent to her friends bragging about trying to steal Adam, she went silent. They showed message after message where she described her plans in detail. One message said she was going to wear Adam down, until he realized I was the wrong sister. Another said she'd already picked out their wedding venue. The prosecutor asked her to explain the credit card applications in Adam's name. She stammered something about identity theft being common these days. Then they showed her laptop search history with articles about opening accounts in someone else's name. The jury only took 40 minutes to deliberate. They came back with guilty verdicts on criminal harassment, stalking, identity theft, and violating a restraining order. Mia stood there shaking as the judge read the verdict. She got 18 months probation, mandatory psychiatric treatment, and 6 months in a residential mental health facility. The judge also issued a permanent restraining order covering me, Adam, and our families. She had to pay $20,000 in restitution for the security systems we'd installed and the legal fees. Her lawyer tried to argue for a lighter sentence, but the judge said Mia showed a dangerous pattern of escalation. Outside the courthouse, Mom grabbed me and pulled me into the tightest hug. She whispered that she was proud of me for standing up for myself and Adam. Dad stood next to us with tears in his eyes. A week later, Adam and I had dinner at our favorite Thai place. We didn't talk about winning or losing, just about moving forward and building our life together. The owner brought us free dessert when he heard we'd been through something tough. 3 days after that, Dad texted me that Mia had checked into the court-ordered treatment facility. She was in a halfway house for people with personality disorders and obsessive behaviors. The program was supposed to last 6 months minimum with possible extensions if she didn't show improvement. I went through my phone that night and deleted every photo of Mia except one. It was us at ages 5 and 7, building sandcastles at the beach, before everything turned into competition. I kept it to remember there was a time when she was just my sister. Rachel threw us a housewarming party at our new apartment 2 weeks later. We'd moved across town to a building with better security and doormen who actually checked IDs. She invited only our closest friends who'd supported us through the whole nightmare. Everyone brought food, and nobody mentioned Mia's name once the entire night. 6 months passed before I heard anything about Mia again. Her therapist sent a letter through my lawyer saying Mia wanted to communicate something. It wasn't an apology or admission of guilt. She wrote that she understood she needed help and was working on understanding why she did what she did. I read it once and filed it away in a folder marked Past. Some bridges are meant to stay burned, and some people need to stay in your rearview mirror. Adam found me standing by our new apartment's window that night looking out at the Seattle skyline. He took my hand and we stood there watching the ferries cross the water. We didn't need to say anything because we both knew we'd survived something that could have destroyed us. The restraining order would last forever, but the fear was finally starting to fade. We had new locks, new routines, and a new chance to build something without looking over our shoulders. Mia was getting help, but that was her journey now, not mine. I'd spent 3 years protecting what I'd built with Adam, and now we could finally just live it. What would you have done in my place? Have you ever had a family member turn against you like this? Tell me what you think. I really want to know in the comments below.